Everyone focuses on how to be in a healthy relationship with your partner, your friends, and your parents. But what about when it comes down to the most important relationship you're ever going to have? You. No one ever talks about how to not only truly love yourself, but also show up for yourself on your worst days and really get rid of that negative self talk. Today, I'm here to help you unpack all of it. Welcome back to Build with Bella, the podcast where I help you become the most self loving, best, and most confident version of yourself. We have a lot to unpack today, so without further ado, let's get into it. Chapter number 1 is love isn't at the center of every healthy relationship. The internet has kind of glorified this idea that once you love yourself, everything just falls into place. Life is just peachy and it's beautiful, and even when things are hard, things still look good and things still feel good. That is not the truth, okay? When I was starting my self-love journey, or self-development journey, if you will, love was not there for a very long time. Because I think when you are starting your journey, you're starting it because you don't have that love. So I think expecting that love from yourself right away and that validation that you should feel really gets you down, because you shouldn't be going into this journey expecting that you're just going to automatically fall in love with who you are and you're going to love your personality and you're going to think you're the best, most amazing person in the world. That's not how it works. It's not always like that. A lot of our self-development comes from being in tune with yourself and truly taking the time to learn about yourself and align with your goals. And for the first part of your journey, that is not going to feel good. That is not going to feel normal, especially if you're used to not loving yourself. So learning how to do that is a journey in itself. So I really don't want you guys to think that you being on your self-love journey means you actually have to love yourself right away. And I'm not saying that, like, I'm all for self-love, but it is a constant process that has so many ups and downs, and there are so many days when my mood just completely fluctuates, and I do feel like there are days when I have less belief in myself, and it's how you show up in those moments. It's not always just, oh, I love myself, so everything's going to be fine. It's you knowing yourself, right? Because there's a difference between knowing yourself and loving yourself, and you kind of have to have both to have a healthy, balanced relationship with yourself. Because you can't only love yourself on your best days. So you kind of have to learn to find that balance of in between where you can be kind of rough with yourself in some ways and be like, okay, you know what? Like, we have been slacking all day. Let's do something. And then also be like, you know what? I have space for you right now because I know things are kind of difficult. So we're just going to take it one step at a time. So it's really just finding that balance between both and learning how to manage both in a healthy way. I also want to talk about how you need to start building small actions that build respect in yourself, because a lot of this journey is going to be from you learning how to respect yourself, you learning how to be around yourself again. Because I know that this stuff kind of sounds weird, but when you are really disconnected to who you are as a person, when you start being more in tune with your emotions and your feelings, you're going to realize how much stuff you have to unpack. And that should not demotivate you, but it's really easy to fall into a slump and to think that there's something wrong with you. And so learning how to build small actions that make you realize, oh, this is something that a respectable person would do, even if it is literally just, I'm going to shower before school today, or I'm going to wear an outfit that makes me feel a little bit better, or I'm going to do my hair so I feel less slumpy and less kind of like messy during the day, or literally like whatever it is. Start building small, repeatable, respectable actions, and that will give you more self-trust, more self-belief, and eventually more self-love. Chapter 2 is learning how to be alone, not lonely. Before we get into this chapter, I really, really, really want to mention that being lonely is very, very different from being alone. So we have to be really, really gentle and careful when we use the word lonely. Because when you are truly lonely, a lot of times, even when you're in a room full of people, you don't feel good. You feel very isolated. You feel very uncomfortable. You feel very, very much like there's just something wrong with you. You feel like you can't get close to anybody. So being lonely is a very different thing than you just being on your own. And I think it's really difficult now, especially with the internet and everything. We have kind of blended the two things together, and we make it like, oh, this is so sad. I saw this person and he looks so lonely. And, we just kind of like make it such a big deal. And we have engraved in our minds that, oh my gosh, like, if you're alone, that means you're lonely. And we immediately think we have to defend ourselves when we're alone. I think, especially when it comes to friendships and relationships, a lot of people, if you say that, like, oh yeah, I'm single, they're like, oh, don't worry, don't worry. Like, you'll find somebody. Like, it's a bad thing to be single. So I think, like, our perception of being alone has been really altered by not only family and friends' opinions, but also the internet. So I just really wanted to clear that up, that those are two very different things. So if you have been walking around saying, I'm really lonely, really try to just change that mindset. And if you are truly lonely, I truly do recommend that you go see a therapist or get help, because that is a serious thing that needs to be handled in a more professional way. Now that we've got that cleared up, let's kind of go through how this ties into your self-love and relationship with yourself journey. You guys cannot have a healthy relationship with yourself if you don't know how to be alone. Okay? Learning how to deal with your thoughts and learning how to deal with your emotions and learning how to approach those prickly thoughts really, really does help, because it is so important that we know how to be alone with ourselves and then not demonize that as lonely. So I really think it's just an important thing to learn how to do and master. And you guys also need to be finding things that you enjoy by yourself, okay? Like, when you're alone, try a hobby. Try doing something. I feel like the reason why we feel so sad when we're alone is because we're not doing anything. I feel, like a lot of people, they're either in their room scrolling or they're in their room just kind of like watching a show and not doing anything. Of course, you're not going to feel good if that's all you're doing when you're alone by yourself. You're going to start creating a pattern where you perceive being alone as bad because that's all you do when you're alone. When I'm alone, I am so happy because I know that I'm in tune with myself, I'm checking in with myself, I'm doing things that I enjoy, and I'm catering to myself in so many ways. I'm helping my future self, and I'm just building my self-belief and self-confidence. And if you don't align with that right now, and you don't feel like you are doing good things when you are alone, it's really important that you start to kind of change that relationship with that and start trying new hobbies. Start journaling, start reading, start trying to get engaged in your mind and try to kind of figure out this, where your head's at, because this space up here is what is going to make you successful or what is going to be your downfall. And if you can't figure out what's in your head and you can't move past from anything negative in your life, you really need to sort that out, because that is something that will literally destroy you or help build you a stronger life. Some of the best ideas, some of the best moments that I've ever had in my life was when I was literally just on my own and I was thinking, I was going for a walk and I was just like, okay, like, where do I feel like I'm at right now? Like, how do I feel right now? And I really just got in my head in a positive way and helped myself work through emotions that I had never done for myself before. So it's really, really important that you just learn how to sit with yourself. You don't always need to be doing something. You don't always need to be productive and doing all these things. It's literally just learning how to be in tune with yourself and being okay with your own presence by yourself. Chapter number 3 is learning how to talk to yourself the way you would talk to others. And I know this sounds kind of cheesy and kind of cringy, but seriously, guys, self-talk is another thing that will make or break you. And I notice a lot in myself that even things that, I still make some comments towards myself that aren't necessarily negative, but they aren't necessarily positive. And I literally can just feel how my mood decreases when I belittle myself like that. So learning how to adapt a more positive mindset. So I'm going to give you guys a really good example of a way that I was able to do this. So I'm going to be so straightforward with you guys. I hate math. I despise it. Ever since I was young, it was not my strong suit, and it always made me really upset. So as a kid, I learned to perceive math as very negative, and then I had very negative feelings towards it, I would really get in my head and I would just say, oh my gosh, like, why are you so stupid? Why can't you understand this? Like, I don't like you. And it would just completely shut me down. And then it wasn't that I couldn't understand the math, it was literally that I had beat myself into the ground so far that my brain just gave up. It didn't want to do anything. So I made my head such an unsafe space for myself that I literally could not succeed in that subject. Now, even though, yes, it is still not my strong suit, it is still not my highest grade, and I still have to work very, very difficult in math, my mindset has completely changed. Now, when I'm doing math, I do not call myself stupid. I do not allow that self talk to fly because I know that that kind of talk is literally just going to bring me down deeper than I already than I already am, and it is not going to help me progress. It is not going to help me get to where I want to go. So instead, I always tell myself, like, you know what? It's okay if we need a little bit of extra time to do this, let's ask for help. Let's get someone else's opinion. Let's have someone run through it with you who can maybe understand the subject better. And instead of shutting myself down, I open myself up to the possibilities that I could learn in so many different ways. And this is just an example, but as you learn more about yourself, you will learn about what kind of positive or negative self talk patterns that you have. And I really recommend not only just identifying the negative ones, but the positive ones. How do you feel like you would like to be talked to if you were in a very, very sad or negative experience by your partner or your best friend or your parent, right? How would you want them to approach you? Would you want them to be more empathic? Would you want them to be a little bit more like firm and be like, okay, like I get you're sad, but we kind of do need to move forward. Like this is what we can do. How do you want, how would you want them to approach you? And then kind of learn how you can give that self talk to yourself because it is amazing to have people help you when you're stressed, when you're in a negative situation. But a lot of the negative things that go through our mind, a lot of the negative situations that we find ourselves in daily are very small, silent battles that we face with ourselves. And in those moments, we have the choice whether we feed them and make them worse or kind of sprout them in the opposite direction and turn them into a very positive learning experience. So if you can kind of learn how to master your mind in that way and learn how to be like, hey, let's take a pause. Okay? Like, it's not the end of the world. We're not stupid. We're going to figure this out, even if it takes us a little bit longer. Like, you got this. You're doing great. Okay? Like, we just need a couple extra minutes to figure this out. Let's just work through it. Like, what do you need? Do you need a 10-minute break? Do you need to go get a glass of water? Do you need to go study in a silent room for a little bit? Like, what do you need? And you start giving yourself opportunities to feel better instead of just making yourself constantly feel worse. And truly, guys, like I said, this mindset is going to carry you through your entire life. So the faster you can learn to build this positive self-talk and this little mini cheerleader that is always in the back of your mind that you can, ask for help from whenever you need, that is such a valuable skill. That is such a valuable skill that will literally save you so many circumstances and so many opportunities because you have that little cheerleader in your head now. And I also want you guys to think about how, what if you had a friend or someone who was struggling? Would you just go up to them and be like, oh, well, you probably deserve that. You were just stupid anyways? No. You would never say that to them. Why? Because you know that that is not helpful. So I don't know why we've made it such a trend to always want to give and support other people, which as we should. But then the second that we make a mistake, we cannot give that empathy and love to ourselves. We just literally were never taught how to do that. So I really highly encourage you guys, if you just are physically like, Bella, I just genuinely don't think I can do this right now. I just want you to think that maybe you aren't talking to yourself, okay? Think about your friend who was sitting down crying, she's going through whatever situation you're in. You're talking to her. So just try to like gently, as you go, shift and then kind of move into who you are. And as you do this and as you give that person more positive self-talk in your head, you're kind of going to be able to be like, oh, actually, this was really helpful. I should use this next time. And you'll learn what feels best for you and how to give yourself more positive talk in a more consistent, valuable way instead of just being like, oh, well, yeah, you know what? You just suck. You're just not as good as everybody else. Chapter 4 is learning how to show up for yourself when you don't want to. I'm not going to lie to you guys. Today, I really did not want to record this episode. I was feeling really just like, out of it. I didn't want to record. I felt kind of sluggish today. Showing up for yourself, even when you don't want to, is so unbelievably important because, guys, it's easy to show up for yourself when everything's going good. When you're motivated, when the sun is shining and you're clear, your mind is clear, you feel good about yourself, you're confident. I love that, but that is actually not when a lot of the growth happens. A lot of your growth and the knowledge that you gain over your lifetime happens from the harder, the more negative things that happen to you. And as much as we absolutely hate to admit this and just wish that it wasn't true, a lot of the success we have comes from our previous failures and the things that we actually felt embarrassed by. So learning how to actually still engage that little cheerleader in your head even when you don't want to is so unbelievably important. A tip I have for this is don't look at everything as this ginormous thing or giant task that you have to complete. Think about it as doing it in really small, manageable chunks. Because, guys, we have glorified a culture where even when you are so burnt out and you're so tired and you're so sad and you're so demotivated, you're still supposed to show up. You're supposed to do a trillion things that day. You're supposed to run a successful business, be a multimillionaire by the time you're 22, blah, 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 all these things. And it's so easily overwhelming, but I am here to tell you that you don't need to do that, and you actually can take time to slow down. Guys, there are days when I look at my daily schedule and I'm like, I already know I'm gonna have to make these projects smaller. Like, I already know that the way that I'm feeling, I'm not gonna be able to pour as much energy into them. And that is okay. If you need to break down your day into smaller, manageable chunks, that is totally fine. So, like, if you're having a really slow, sluggish day, maybe instead of doing a 1 hour super intense weightlifting workout or even just a 30-minute workout, maybe you go for a 15-minute walk. Maybe you do 15 minutes of Pilates. Maybe you stretch for 10 minutes. You're still showing up. I'm not telling you guys to not show up. You need to be able to show up for yourself, and you deserve that. You deserve to do your routine and do your healthy habits because that's what's going to make you feel good. But you do not have to do it at the intensity that you who has 100% that day can give, okay? You are allowed to slow down and take things at a more manageable, slow pace. I also want to talk about having compassion for yourself in these moments. You don't always have to beat yourself up or try to cancel out the fact that you're resting with like, oh my gosh, like I feel so guilty for resting. I feel so shameful for blah 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 blah, blah for taking a break. Guys, we are not doing that, okay? The rest is good. But as soon as you start feeling guilty and shameful, which are two of the lowest vibrational frequencies you can be operating at, by the way, that is when the problem arises, and that's when things get really dangerous because then you're just going to feel even more drained. Okay? If you're going to rest, then rest. You don't have to cancel it out with, oh my gosh, I'm so guilty. I spent an hour watching my favorite show tonight. If that's what you needed to do to feel better and productive the next day, then so be it. It's fine. You're gonna live. It's not the end of the world. Everybody needs to rest. And like I said, this doesn't mean you don't show up for yourself. But it's just learning to have more compassion for yourself, realizing that you are a human being, you are not a robot, and every single day, for what could be 1,000 quadrillion million reasons why we don't feel good sometimes, that's okay. And you can just let yourself have a couple hours or a couple days to reconfigure and get yourself back together. And obviously, this doesn't mean that you're just binge watching TV and eating chips all day, but it means that you're allowing yourself to slow down and give yourself the space to intuitively live instead of just brute forcing your way through everything, which you're going to make mistakes. You're going to get flustered. You're going to get burnt out. Your work isn't going to be as efficient anyways. So just take the time to slow down and be intuitive. And this also just gives you so many more tools to manage stress and burnout in the future, because it's really important to learn how to acknowledge signs of burnout and stress. So then we have more tools when we're older to be able to manage this. And, this is something that literally kills people, guys. So learning how to manage your stress and burnout is a very serious thing. So truly take the time to study yourself when you're in these moments and figure out what makes you feel good. And last but not least, chapter 5, my best tips to you guys on how you can leave this episode feeling productive and accomplished and like you learned something and can actually apply these tips to your life. Number 1 is, when you catch yourself in a negative thought, I really want you guys to think about younger you or someone who you really care about. And what if you were saying those things to them? What if you were looking at 5-year-old you who is looking at you now in complete admiration and awe, and you're looking at her and you're like, I think I'm ugly. I think I'm stupid. I don't think I can accomplish everything we want to accomplish. How soul crushing would that be for her? How devastating would she feel if you said that to her? So you are saying that. Whatever you are saying to your current self, you are also saying to the little version of yourself, to your inner child. You are putting that on your future self. You are not just thinking about you. You are thinking about 3 very important versions of yourself. So I really want you guys to think about that and be more cautious of the words that you speak over yourself next time you're about to say something negative. Tip number 2 is, stop trying to fix your bad days, okay? Literally, I'm sure you guys could probably tell by the tone of how I was speaking in this episode, I was not feeling very bubbly and bright today. And instead of just trying to fix that, I'm just letting myself, okay? You don't always have to be at 100%. Sometimes there are just, you don't know why. You don't know what's wrong. You just feel sad. You just feel more down. Let yourself. Okay, like I said, this doesn't mean that you don't do what you need to do. It just means that you give yourself space to feel what you're feeling. And you don't feel like you need to change everything at once. And you don't feel like you need to do an entire cleanse reset routine to tomorrow just because you had one bad day. Just let yourself live and feel, okay? Trust me, the next day will just feel so much better if you just let yourself breathe today. Number 3 is, be the person you would want to have in a relationship. I know this sounds kind of weird and you're probably like, what are you even talking about? Think about the dream partner that you want and the acts of service and the way they would talk to you. How would you want them to act towards you? You can literally give those actions to yourself. You can start calling yourself beautiful. You can start buying yourself flowers. You can start giving yourself all the acts of service and cooking yourself romantic dinners. Because once you start doing that, your self-love will increase and you will literally be at a frequency where you can attract that from other people. Guys, everything in life is about energy, and if you are not in the correct vibration to attract something, you won't. So remember that how you think about yourself, that will perceive onto other people, and you are putting that energy out there for other people to be like, oh, well, she doesn't value herself, so why should I? So when I say that this is the most important relationship you will ever have in your life, I am being very serious. So please take this seriously. Take these tips to heart and start implementing them in your life today. Like any relationship, this will take time and patience. Your relationship with yourself is the most important one you will ever have, and it will literally impact the way you live your life and the people you attract. So take the time and be patient with yourself, because this is a relationship worth investing in. This was your weekly reminder to learn, grow, evolve, inspire. Thank you all so much for being here till the end. I love you all so much, and I can't wait to talk to you next week. Bye!